Julius Caesar, the man who shattered the hollow skull of the Republic, only to save Rome from the rot of its own success. A name that became a title that became a god, and a god that was eventually bled dry by his own children. From the ghost of Alexander the Great to the defiance of Spartacus, the slave who made the Roman heart tremble with the sound of breaking chains. The revolt of Spartacus was crushed with iron. The crosses lined the Appian Way like a forest of dying men. Order was restored, or so they thought. Rome breathed again, but Rome had learned nothing from the blood in the sand. Because the true threat, the final shadow, did not come from the slaves, nor from the barbarians at the gates. It came from within, from the cold, velvet heart of its own broken system. The man who would shake the foundations of the world would not lead a simple revolt. He would use the law as a dagger. He would use the ancient traditions of the Republic as the very stones to build his throne. His name was Gaius Julius Caesar. To truly understand Caesar, one must first smell the decay of the Roman Republic. It was no longer a state of balance or of civic virtue. It had become a tired, grinding mechanism of greed, controlled by a handful of wealthy families and a senate of aging men who had forgotten the people. The endless wars had brought rivers of gold into the city, but those rivers always stopped, without fail, in the vaults of the elite. The soldiers, the men who bled for every inch of Roman soil, returned home to find no land, no money, and no future. They were heroes in the field and beggars in the streets. Rome was filling with these desperate souls, ghosts of a state that had used them and thrown them away. In this boiling cauldron of social hatred, in the year 100 before Christ, Caesar was born into a world of long shadows. His family was noble, but they were poor in a city that worshipped only gold. They had an ancient name, but no seat at the high table of power. Even in his youth, Caesar understood a visceral truth. In Rome, it is not the most moral who survive, but those who can manipulate the darkest corners of human nature. He was not the wealthiest man, but he possessed a sharp, lethal intelligence and an ambition that stretched beyond the horizon. During the bloody dictatorship of Sulla, a man whose hands were stained with the lifeblood of thousands, Caesar was nearly sent to his grave. He refused to bow. He refused to divorce the woman he loved. He was forced to flee into the mountains, surviving like a lone wolf in the wilderness. When he was finally allowed to return, Sulla spoke a prophecy that still haunts history. In this young man, there are 1,000 enemies of the state. Caesar learned the only lesson that matters. Power is never a gift. Power is a prize taken with a blade. Shortly after his return, Caesar was captured by pirates in the Mediterranean. Most men would have prayed for mercy, but Caesar was not most men. He treated his captors with a cold, terrifying contempt. When they demanded a ransom, he laughed in their faces, telling them they were asking for far too little, and that once he was free, he would return and crucify every last one of them. They thought it was a joke. They were wrong. As soon as the gold was paid, Caesar gathered a fleet, hunted them down, and kept his promise to the letter. He did it not out of simple cruelty, but to send a message. Julius Caesar is coming, and his word is iron. Rome began to whisper his name. Caesar entered politics, and he chose his side with surgical precision. The people. He organized games so grand they made the citizens forget their hunger. He borrowed impossible sums of money to buy the loyalty of the streets. He created a spectacle of himself, a living idol. The senators despised him. They saw the crown he was building in his mind, but the people adored him as their champion. This volatile mix of love and hatred was the fire that would burn the Republic to the ground. Then came the move that changed everything. Caesar united the three most dangerous men in Rome: Pompey, the sword; Crassus, the money; and Caesar, the mastermind. This was the First Triumvirate, a hidden hand that strangled the Senate. Caesar was given command of Gaul. What looked like an exile to the edge of the world became the forge where he would hammer out his destiny. For years, he disappeared into the forests of the north. He conquered vast territories. He crushed tribes, and he defeated armies that vastly outnumbered his own. But more important than the gold was the bond he forged in the blood and the mud. His soldiers no longer fought for the Republic. They fought for Caesar. He was their father, their general, their god. He marched with them in the rain. He ate their dry bread, and he stood in the front lines when the shields began to break. He controlled the story, sending back reports that made every Roman feel the weight of his glory. The victory in Gaul transformed Caesar. He was no longer just a man. He was a force of nature. For the people, he was the savior. For the Senate, he was a monster that had outgrown his leash. Rome was splitting into two realities, and they were on a collision course. In the Senate, the air was thick with fear. Caesar was becoming more powerful than the laws. They sent him an ultimatum: lay down your command and return to Rome as a defenseless citizen. Caesar knew what that meant. It meant a shallow grave and the erasure of his name. History reached the point where words are useless. Caesar stood at the banks of the Rubicon, a small river, but a boundary between peace and total war. He paused. He felt the weight of every life he was about to consume, and then he crossed. An act of high treason. The die was cast. Rome was no longer a republic. It was a battlefield. The Civil War was a harvest of sorrow. Years of slaughter followed, from the plains of Greece to the sands of Egypt. Caesar did not win only through force, but through a speed that defied logic. He chose to forgive his enemies, a calculated clemency that was more terrifying than any execution. He wanted a Rome that worked, not a Rome that bled. After the final defeat of Pompey, Caesar stood alone at the top of the world. He did not act like the tyrants before him. He didn't fill the streets with blood. Instead, he tried to fix the machine. He reformed the calendar. He gave land to the poor, and he stabilized the coin for the masses. He was the light for the Senate. He was a king without a title. And in Rome, king was a curse. On the Ides of March, Caesar walked into the Senate. He had been warned by the stars, but he walked in anyway. Perhaps because a man who has seen the edge of the universe cannot be killed by mere shadows. He was surrounded by the men he had forgiven, the men he called his sons. The daggers came from every side, a rain of cold steel. He was stabbed 23 times by those who claimed they were saving liberty, but who were actually just saving their own power. Rome believed his death would bring back the old world. They were wrong. The death of Caesar did not bring peace. It brought a vacuum that sucked the life out of the Republic. It brought more chaos, more fire, and more blood. The old system collapsed for good, and from the ashes the Roman Empire was born, an iron-willed beast that would rule for centuries. Julius Caesar did not destroy the Republic. He simply stood by its bed and watched it die, revealing the rot that was already there. A single man cannot kill a healthy state. Caesar was just the mirror, showing Rome its own distorted face. His legacy did not die with him. On the contrary, his name was burned into the memory of the human race. For 2,000 years, his ambition echoed through time. From the Kaiser to the Tsar, the world could never forget his footprint. Caesar understood before anyone that an era had ended and that the old world was gone. He forced history to take a step into the unknown, transforming a broken state into a universal force. Though his heart was stopped by the blades of his friends, his vision conquered the future. This vision was finally secured by Octavian, the cold heir who turned the chaos into the iron peace of the empire. The Republic was a memory, and on its grave, the greatest power of antiquity rose to the stars. If you found value in this journey, a simple like helps us keep the fire burning. And if you want to walk further into the dark corridors of history, subscribe